Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of Smight Insight after 1 week break. And we are back here with Ashley, and our guest today will be Wadid. Hello Wadid.
Hello, my name Wadid. Actually, G2 Wadid. Hey guys.
Okay, so we have a
Flexing
G2
it.
Wadid with us, with a G2 plushie and a G2 hat and a G2 jacket. So Wadid is that definitely a G2 Wadid. Me and Wadid, of course, played in G2 esports together, right? In 2018, we went all the way to semifinals and got destroyed by IG, but we also beat RNG. That was a great time. Of course, you can follow Wadid on multiple social media. Maybe Wadid, you want to give a shout out to your Instagram and YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, my hashtag is WadidXD as per usual. So you can follow me on Instagram. I don't mind about like X anymore because I'm more deep into Instagram right now. So yeah.
And we have a /Jankos for YouTube and Twitch when it comes to my channels. I actually don't remember if it's /Jankos in YouTube, but it's fine.
I just wanted to add an extra context that we decided to bring Wadid today because he's actually been co-streaming LEC all the way from Korea for the die-hard LEC fans of Korea. Surprisingly, there's quite a lot of them. The LCK has finished. We have some learnings from it, especially on how the best of 5 PLS works, and perhaps you can tell us the difference between the two regions. What we can expect from the LEC going into more best of 5s later into the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, coming into this year, I feel like LEC has more chance into the international tournament, especially because. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's mainly because of the Phillies draft, but I feel like just in general, when you compare LEC, like this year LEC to last year LEC, oh man, it's a huge improvement. I would say because like the quality of the game was just so different. Like especially whenever you watch their games from the winter, they were just like. I would just be honest, like they were just literally trolling, like they're just dying for no reason, like they're just not playing for anything. But for now, they're actually playing for fundamentals, and I think the basic steps are finally back. So even though you feel like the lower tier teams are not that looking great enough, but I still think like you had like Heretics and Vitality who had great games in LEC. They still made some great games against like good tier teams. So I feel like, I mean, just in general, again, the quality of the game improved so much.
So you're basically saying that ever since Jankos has left the LEC, the quality of the games have extremely improved. You just mentioned Heretics and Vitality specifically. It's doing much better ever since Jankos has left Heretics. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
No,
like
maybe. But like I think the huge difference is that the Phillies draft is in, and also there were more like I think we could see the more clear plan from separate teams. So I think, I mean, it's not his fault, let's be honest, you know. So I mean, I was really liking his play style still in the last year, even though you didn't like achieve something, but I still felt like you were one of the best LEC jungler, even though it didn't work really well. So I was kind of like surprised that like when you actually decide to have a break, because I thought you were one of the best junglers still in the last year.
thanks, Wadid. You see, actually, you forced Wadid to talk well about me because he was like, "Oh my God, yeah, I did mention Heretics as they are much better this year." No, but I agree. By the way, I think Heretics actually. Heretics made big improvements, and I do agree that they had their own playstyle and they actually showed a lot of promise. And as much as they didn't go that far into the playoffs, as they lost their both BO3s, then I still think that they had good games in regular season, right?
I did want to start with Wadid. You have indeed been co-streaming LEC for entire season, and you mentioned the increase in the quality of games. What has been your overall overview of the season? Because we would always love to get a perspective of someone watching from outside, so to speak.
I mean, I think from last year, I was like kind of shocked that they were not even like looking for basic stats, and also I think that's mainly because like I'm a ex-support player, so I was really sad about how bad quality they are right now. But I feel like I think Riot changed also. I mean, the game changed a lot to the team game. I think back in the day, if you were really ahead in game, then I think you were looking for more split push. It's like 1-3-1. You never group when you're ahead because your side lane is winning and you don't have to group for the random 50-50 team fight, right? But I think right now, if you're winning, I think you have to group because of the objective. I think the Artakan value is really high, and also you have to stack your Dragon Soul. And I think that made game a lot simple. So I think that also changed in the pro scene. I think even though lower tier teams having obviously like your teammate has like really small name compared to like other players, but you are still having a chance because you just gotta win a one team fight and then you can get objective. I think that's not that hard when you compare it to like 1-2-1 split push. So I think that's mainly that's the main reason why it feels a lot better. So yeah, I mean that's mainly that because of the meta, I would say.
I think I agree with this. I think that the game became way more focused on team fighting, and I think even since I think 2 years now or even 3 years, Europe has been focusing on the 1-4 meta, which is basically one guy showing on side lane at a time maximum, and then 4 people are trying to group. Or even if one person is showing on side lane and the one person from other side of the map is not grouping, that he's still not showing on the map, so that you can like safely push out one side and then keep on the rotation. The support jungle is supposed to cover one side, then instantly base if you are ahead, cover the other side, and you play the tempo game. Tell your enemy team makes a mistake and maybe goes to your TP wards and you TP on him, or you match him and you kill him because he has to retake to the vision if you have a good tempo lead. So I think this is something that a lot of teams didn't do that well. I think one of the teams that did it very well was Fnatic. I think that I think Humanoid is pretty famous for how he plays on sides, and he used to die a lot in the early days of Fnatic, but I think they improved it a lot because they started covering him better with Razork and Mickey, and I think Mickey's understanding of tempo also helped Fnatic a lot. Unfortunately, they did not. I mean, okay, well, we will see them on Friday facing off against MKOI, right? But they didn't make it. I mean, they just got destroyed by G2, right? But at this point, everybody kind of loses to G2. So, and I think G2's strength. If we go from like the meta to why is G2 so good right now, is I think partially how they play around their solo lanes and what's their understanding of macro. And I think that G2 still has the 2 best solo laners in the league, while also having a very in-depth macro understanding with good drafts. And I think the good drafts is something that they did very well against KC, right? So it's not easy to beat that team because in week 1, as you know, what is a G2 consumer, right? But in week 1, you guys kind of sucked, right? You guys were like very not connected to each other, and it was clearly visible that people like Scuman and Labrov did not have enough time to really be within the team. And since then, I think Scuman is making a name for himself as like one of the best junglers right now. I think he has been mechanically playing amazing, and I think he's performing so well. And then Labrov is having way better performance as well. He's not lost on the map anymore, but also mechanically, and his confidence improved, and he's going for these plays. You know, even I remember in I think game 1 of KC against G2, he caught Kalista between 2 tier 2 towers at like 12 minutes of the game or 40 minutes of the game. He was with Blitzcrank literally at the entrance to enemy base, right? And he actually caught him, got that hook and killed Kalista. And sometimes I felt like in week 1, G2 didn't trust each other. And when Labrov wanted to go in, no one was behind him. Or when he went in, he would just die, team would leave him, right? So right now, I feel like this team is actually back, and I don't know, man. I love G2. I think, you know, I love BB, I love Caps. I don't really have a lot of experience with other players, but I think these 2 players are amazing and they deserve everything that they have, and they are really good players, and it makes sense they're winning. I would just like some new blood to win as well, you know. I would love for KC to win LEC. I think it would be really nice to see. And right now it's just looking like G2 is gonna stomp all over again, but we will see. Maybe who knows what's gonna happen in the finals. But any thoughts you had about it on the finals against KC, or on the not finals but like the semi-finals, or even the kind of the semi-finals of the upper bracket?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree what you said about the G2, and also I just want to add some like my insight as well, because I mean I think we can make it simple. I think 2025 G2 is completely different when you compare it to like 2023 2024 G2, because I feel like they are playing more for the fundamentals. I think before, mainly because of Mickey X, who is king of creativity, looking for more pickups, looking for more aggressive plays, and he was king of the tempo, right? So I think that's the reason why whenever G2 is playing good, no one could follow their tempo, right? They're just getting everything in the map. So I think that was the main reason why everyone was struggling against G2. You can never expect what they will do, what they plan to do, right? But right now, they play for more fundamentals. I said mentioned. So it more looks like more like slow, I would say, but it's gonna make them stronger eventually. So it feels really great. I think that's also because of the new two players. They are really consistent, I would say, because I mean, just see them how they play, especially Skewmon. Even though G2 was losing some games at the beginning, his performance was kind of decent. He never made some kind of silly mistakes, you know. Like there are so many players that making so many like I don't know, just random moments, you know. Like you're just getting caught randomly. So that made game a little messier, but. Skewman, I think he never had those kind of moments. Even though like they were losing, he was one of the player that is still making some plays in the losing game. So I think that also made G2 a lot stronger. And for the Lavrov, I think at the beginning I was really not down for this player. You know, I was hating this player because he was getting caught a lot. You know, so but. Right now, when I see his plays, I could see him like thinking a lot, you know, about his itemization. When he played Alistar against Rumble, he just rushed Redemption and Locket, and he literally denied the Rumble damage all the time, you know. I think that kind of like smart idea about the game helped a lot. And also right now, as you mentioned, he's really confident about himself as well. So that also makes G2 really strong. Yeah, I mean, he's one of the player that he wants to play a macro, and I think this is one of the things that I heard from Ice as well. I was really not into him, but he said, "Oh, Lavrov is one of the good player. You maybe cannot see it outside of the game, but when I play with him, I felt really great. He knows about the game. He knows about the macro. So if I have chance, I wanna play with him again." He literally said that. So I think after that, like I was putting more attention on Lavrov, and he is one of the smart player in the league right now. So I think, yeah. Because of the support play style difference, that also makes G2 a lot different. You know, I think at the beginning, I don't know why I'm saying like perks, but yeah, at Cavs, I think he was trying more random stuff to win the game, right? He was way more aggressive when you compare it to last season. I think that didn't help G2 enough, but right now he's trusting more on new players, and I think he's just playing for his lanes and just playing for the team. And I think G2 right now looks a lot stronger, and I cannot say that they are stronger than 2024, but I really like their playstyle because I am the player that I want to win without any kills. I am the macro guy, so I really like their playstyle because they are playing for macro.
This is super interesting because to summarize what Marcin and Wadid are both saying is, yes, G2 was a bit of a slow starter, and maybe we didn't believe in some of the players when we just started, but it all actually seems like that G2 was slowly building up their fundamentals, the players getting used to each other, realizing how we want to build up and how we see the game and how we define the playstyle, and it seems like the result is great because the fundamentals are there, and we have, as Marcin mentioned, two best solo daters in Europe, BB and Caps, and also the new players have shifted the playstyle slightly, and that all seems to lead into the conversation of G2 playing with more fundamentals. And why did I actually want to probe you on this? Because in Korea, we talk about fundamentals a lot. When I interview the players in Europe, they talk about lane phase. Oh, I should have got the solo kill, or I should have, did a crazy combo. But in Korea, it's all about fundamentals and fundamentals and fundamental. And that seems to encompass so many things, and that seems to almost define this specific characteristic that Korean teams have that perhaps the European teams don't have. And this also seems to be what both Marcin and you are describing when we describe the slightly different version of G2 this year. So can you elaborate in your own words what we say when we say fundamentals or 기본기 in Korean?
So yeah, I think Koreans, they really like to kind of image training, I would say. So basically, I mean, I think if you are a pro player, it's really easy to see after the draft, you already know what's going to happen in the game. Like we can literally just pre-plan everything, what's going to happen in the game. So that's why like Koreans really like to just not making any single mistake and just play for their draft, Like for example, you have winning bot, losing top. So that means that your jungler is going to path towards bot side, and then you're going to play around it, objective around the bot lane movement, bot lane rotation. So I think that all those kind of like pre-plan is what Korean really wants to play around, and I also like it. But I think like European players, they are more kind of instinct. They look for more instinct players. Like you just go for the kills. You maybe skip some steps, but I think that was one of the strongest point that Europe had. But I think after the mechanically like getting worse, I think that didn't work out well. So that's why Europe kind of, okay, guys, I think we have to look for the fundamentals as well, because we are not that good enough right now. So I think that's the biggest reason why they are looking for more basic steps. I mean, yeah, basically, as I mentioned, like we like to pre-plan, and I guess it's kind of Korean thing, we always pre-plan what are we going to do after 5 years, we always think about our future, I think that also kind of adapts on the game as well. I don't know, I'm not sure, maybe that's true, maybe that's first.
Yeah, it's like, being more organized. Like, for example, even when you do solo queue, you're not just playing to win the solo queue. It's like, okay, I'm a top lane, I'm going to talk about top lane. So, hey, I played Gnar, and the opponent team is playing Anivia. I haven't really seen the pick before, but I'm going to research on this matchup and think about my fundamentals and think about, like, how this two champions, like, skills interact with one another, because this is another thing that Jankos, I believe that you wanted to bring up how the solo queue is possibly impacting the G2 players' performance right now. Because I know that there has been a lot of debates about, hey, is solo queue good or is solo queue bad? Is solo queue useless? Is this champion queue beneficial at all? But I think like the usual perception of solo queue in Korea is you do it a lot in order to also build up your fundamental, especially when it comes to matchups of certain champions.
I mean, I think you definitely should do it for the matchups, and I think you should learn as many champions as possible, especially during the fearless draft, right? And I think that, for example, BB's big advantage in G2 Esports is that he plays a lot of matchups that maybe are not as common, right? He pulled out the Warwick into Ambessa with a Pantheon to kill her on Silent, exactly. And then he played a Cho'Gath game into Sion. He also played a Cho'Gath game outside of Sion, I think maybe into Jace or something, but the point still stands that he had champions prepared that people wouldn't expect necessarily, and he played them to a very high level. And I think that in Europe, if you don't spend enough time playing solo queue, which not every player does, you might have not enough time to learn these matchups and to understand these matchups. Of course, I think to truly learn a matchup well, the player not only will have to play solo queue, but also play one-on-ones against a different player of a high caliber. And this is probably where you learn matchup the most. But I still think that solo queue is one of the more important things and maybe slightly undervalued by a lot of other teams than G2 Esports, because I know for a fact that G2 Esports does not really, I wouldn't say enforce, but I'd say push for many solo queue games, and they really appreciate if the players spend time playing, thinking about league, be it one-on-ones, be it scrims, be it solo queue. And I think maybe not every team to the same degree does it. And currently, I believe that every single player from G2, as we are having this episode recorded, is in the top 20 ladder Namely, Skewmont is sitting at 2,121 points in Challenger, which is, I don't even remember when was like Challenger so high peak in Europe as Skewmont is right now. Then we have Labrov, rank 5. We have Caps and Hans Sama taking the places 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then I think BB is the last player, which is rank 20, which is still very high, right? So you can see that these players and that team is treating solo queue very seriously. And in fact, there was a Reddit post before KC against G2. And I think KC was the second highest rated solo queue team in solo queue before the game. So we had, rank 1 G2 against rank 2 KC, and not just from like the POV of I guess the players or the teams, but also from solo queue standpoint. And I think that's very nice to see that people are treating it slightly more seriously, and they're actually trying to practice a lot and putting effort into the practice to build these fundamentals in jungle matchups, in lane matchups that you guys were talking about, or Wadid was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And also, it's about the mindset as well. If you think solo queue is useless, then it's solo queue is useless. But if you think that it's a good practice, even though, let's say, oh, my team died, oh, useless solo queue, then yes, it's a useless solo queue. But whenever you think, oh, whenever your team die, you think in that way, oh, my team died, so what can I do? Then I think that mindset kind of shifts towards to the stage game as well. Like, I think there are so many players having a mental issue even on stage. I think that also comes from the solo queue habits. I think, and also we had a lot of discussions about the solo queue habits when we were in G2 in the same time, Jankos and me.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever we die for no reason, we say that it's a solo queue habit because we are not taking serious in solo queue. That's why we are like having a random deaths, but we kind of recognize that we are having those issues. So like we literally like took a lot serious about the solo queue, and then we actually count on like useless deaths in scrims as well. And then we went to the barbecue after that, like who pays, because who died most of the time like in scrims without any reason. So it's like, I think those kind of things about like taking it serious and the mindset is really important, like it's really important. Like I think if you think it's useless, it's useless,
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and I think that the useless deaths that Wadid brought up, I think that you can have a lot of bad solo queue habits, like he mentioned, and it's important to put value into solo queue, because if you play 20 games, but your brain is completely turned off and you're just playing to play the game, you're probably not going to take a lot out of it. But if you play, let's say, 10 games, but you actually try to actively even like lead the macro in your solo queue games and, play them up as a jungler or as a support, and you try to trade sides whenever one side is losing, and you're just not literally running into enemy team to take every fight possible, which also happens sometimes, and it's not necessarily bad. I think that you can take things out of it. And the worst thing is, I mean, I can look at myself, right? Because I play a lot of solo queue always since I was a streamer, or I am a streamer. And a lot of the time when I would come back to scrims in December from having a break since Worlds or since even earlier, I would have a lot of bad solo queue habits where I would not think about macro as much as I would be thinking about fighting and about just skirmishing, right? And these kind of in my opinion, that's a mistake, because macro is the most important, and in the end, when you play against a very good team, they will not give you a fight that is not good in their terms. So looking for these fights instead of focusing on the map is often a mistake, and this is why a lot of the times Europeans fall short against Korea, for example, or against China, because not only I think, well, I suppose the Asian player skill is very high when it comes to mechanics, but also I think macro understanding. And I also think that the macro understanding that comes into play when you team fight, because I think team fights are a little big subject where you also need to understand team fights, but you need to understand which brush to hold, who should flank, who shouldn't flank, who should mark who, how do you set up the chest pieces on the board to actually, for the team fight to be favorable towards you. And this is something that not always in Europe we have, because not every team thinks about it, and not everybody is going to punish you even if they have a better draft, they might still you give the fight that is not good for them, or they might not play to the win conditions that Wadid mentioned before, right? Like you are not, let's say you have a winning bot lane, maybe teams will not play towards it, or maybe teams will take a fight in the early game when they're playing a hyper-scaling comp. This happens so many times, by the way. Like I think I see so many times in LEC, I feel like the teams that are scaling very well are taking fights very, like even Fnatic against BDS game 3, these guys were mega scaling that game, but they were taking so many skirmishes and they threw the game so hard. And then I don't know how the hell did they win that game, but they did win that game. And BDS should get jailed for the fact that they threw that game. But in the end, why is Fnatic taking all these skirmishes? And it could be the X factor of Miki, that is a playmaker. It could be X factor of Razork, which is also playing more instinctively. But at the same time, they're just not playing to their win conditions, right? And that could be bad habits from solo queue. That could be just bad team understanding. That could be bad draft understanding. Like it could be anything really. But we still, G2 does it way better, but we still need more, I think, to do well at first stand.
Yeah, I do realize that the game has become more teamfight oriented, especially with the introduction of objectives. But it's not just about like winning a fight. It's about where you start the fight. Is Drake going to come live soon? Is it gonna be the Baron? Do you think you can also testify on this? And if you can also compare it specifically to LCK, I think that would be something that the viewers might be really interested in.
I was thinking about why LCK is having a different environment compared to LEC. I think that's because of like culture, I would say. I'm not saying like what way is worse, but it's just different culture, you know. Let's say in Korea, I think you listen to your coaching staffs more and you respect more. If they say something is wrong, the coaching staff, then oh yeah, you have to agree on that because they are the leader of the team, right? But I think in Europe, I think most of the time when I experienced in the team, players were the leader of the team. They like, yes, of course, we have good coaching staffs in Europe, but still, I think the players, the one who was making more topics about the game. So I think that's the reason why Koreans are more playing for their plans, but like Europe, they are just playing for more kind of fresh ideas, you know, because like players need to bring up the ideas. I think that's the main reason why like LCK, like Korea and Europe is different.
We talked a bit about the idea of discipline, fundamentals, and the signs of it that we are seeing in G2 or their efforts towards it. But KC did definitely have they did take one game off G2, and I was actually also curious, what did you notice from KC based on their performance, based on all the factors surrounding their performance?
So yeah, the main reason why KC also looks really strong nowadays is mainly because of their laners, you know. Jankos already mentioned that G2 having solid solo laners, but I think KC also having a solid solo laners helps a lot, like especially from Vladi, and also you have a Kanna on the top lane as well. I think they don't make any random mistakes. You know that your mid laner and top laner is not getting random solo killed. I think also that helps junglers a lot. Like, I think you know better than me, like, cause as jungler, you always like path for plans, you know. You always pre-plan. You always think about what are you gonna do like next 5 minutes. But let's say your laners are just dying for no reason, and you have no priority, and you pre-plan to go top side because you have top lane pressure, but your top lane, oh, I messed up. Oh, I got solo kill. I have no prior. Then you're doomed, basically, you know. So I think that's the main reason why KC looks really like good right now, because of their like just solo mechanical is just so much better compared to like last year, you know. Including their bot lane as well. I think Kalist is also one of the good AD carry in LEC right now. So.
Yeah, I for sure agree with this. Sorry, Ashley. I'll just keep going.
I was literally going to say, what do you think, Jankos? Yeah.
Okay. So I agree with this. I think that KC has very solid players, and I think that the synergy they had between support and jungle was actually one of the fastest we had in Europe. I think that Targamas and Yike started playing together very early, and I'm not talking about like the date, I'm just talking about how they played the map together already from January. It felt like they have good synergy, and it felt like they understand each other, and they would always do the thing I mentioned before, which is the, you know, retake one side and then base and then play to the other side. And I think they would always be together on the map, which I think often when we watch some teams, you can see that jungle and support don't always retake the map from one side, and they are often split. But I think in KC, very, very often they are together, which I think is very important. And I also think that Vladi is from my understanding at least, a very vocal player that voices his needs. And I think a good team needs to know how to play through mid lane. I think that mid lane is still the center of the map, and I think if your mid laner is struggling, be it in like one-on-one matchup, or be it in not understanding how to help himself by asking support jungle to be there at the correct timings, that will make the game harder, right? And Caps, for example, I know it for a fact because I played with him. Vladi, I heard so, and you know, just from understanding the player, and same comes that, you know, I think Jackis is quite solid, but not always. I think he asks for help as much as he maybe would have to, personally. I think so. But yeah, KC is looking pretty strong. I do think that the drafts they had against G2, I didn't like that much, if we are at their subject. I think, for example, G2 basically had always like this one peak that adapted the draft in a way where draft for KC became hard, right? And for example, in game 2, where KC drafted like a very, very strong teamfight draft, they had a Poppy, which basically denied a lot of the Dash champions enemy team had. They traded tanks, which I think Maokai is arguably just better than Sejuani is, because I don't know why, but Maokai in Europe doesn't lose game. It's like 13 wins and maybe like 2 loses. Maokai is like completely batshit crazy in Europe. It's so high prior, but it just doesn't lose. It's like the best tank you can have, right? Like very easy engage, non-committal, and it scales very well. But also that game, it was mostly the Blitzcrank into Lulu, in my opinion, that made the game difficult, and Labrov literally just carried that game. For me, it's actually quite criminal that Labrov did not get MVP for that series, even though I understand BB played amazing. I feel like Labrov played like super amazing. It was like the best series he played, or the best games he had since the start of the year. And I already thought Labrov was really good last year, or like before that. I always respected this player a lot. And I think that he didn't look like himself in the early days of G2. But I think that series was amazing, and I'm bummed out that he didn't get MVP. And then in game 2, the only game that KC won, I still feel like G2 had a good adaptation, and they were getting outscaled that game. And then Caps, there was like this one play where the game was still fightable in team fights, and then Caps had one flank at a Dragon, where he W'd over wall, and at the same time as he W'd on the backline, BB ulted Skewmont. But I think if BB ults as Galio's Caps there, I think they could have won that fight. And besides that, he also got caught in Tribush, just like randomly going there. Like he literally just went into the Tribush and died, and that just completely opened up the game for KC, where the game was even, and then he just like literally ran it. And I think to me, it's very nice that Caps can make mistakes and G2 can still pull through. That mistake in the Tribush was just very weird. I was surprised that he did it. But I think that draft from KC was one of the better drafts they had. And then game 3, they decided to pick Diana Yasuo into Zyra. But then enemy team got Renekton for 5, which Renekton, I don't know if Wadid remembers, but I'm pretty sure we played some Diana Yasuo in G2 as well. And Renekton was one of like the best champions you can have against Diana Yasuo, because it's like literally the champion that is good against both of them. And it was not banned for 5. And then Leona is one of the best supports. Wadid, you have more experience with this as well, right? But Leona, I think, is one of the best supports against Yasuo in like both sides. Like you have Alistar, Leona that are really good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, I think I completely agree. They also kind of forgot about Leona and Renekton, but also they kind of hard forced for Yasuo only. I was thinking that maybe KC had a chance if they actually used a red side enough, because I was thinking that if they pick something really aggressive and on the top side, then I think they could have chance. Even though it's a Yasuo comp, like Yasuo team comp, I think you could go for like some kind of like Queen or Vayne on the top lane against Renekton. That actually forces them to think about it as well, because let's say, oh, they have Yasuo Diana and also Ornn on the top as well. That means that if you dodge one of their ability, then they're out, right? But they have Yasuo and Diana, but on top of that, they have winning top lane with the Queen or like Vayne, that kind of champion. Then like in team fight, you have to think about two different things in a one single team fight. So I think that could make the difference. But yeah, I mean, they picked Ornn, so it made game a lot like simple. So
Yeah, and
I think.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
you can go.
And I just feel like the draft was just made hard from the Leona Renekton pick, and then they were they were running with their comp. They were running into Zyra, but as soon as Zyra didn't get engaged on or got Zonya, the comp was completely unplayable, and they were also losing side to to Yone. Excuse me. Yone was winning both sides. If Yone matches Ornn, he's gonna win. If Yone matches Vladi, in that case Chase, he's gonna win as well. So they didn't get the Yone for themselves. They gave up the Yone with the Zyra, which is like one of the better combos. And then last game, I know this is very Cup specific, but I played with Kang in 2022, and he always enjoyed Anivia into Ryze. He thought it's a very good matchup. But that game he had Anivia into Draven Ryze, which are very close range carries. Enemy team had like no engage whatsoever, because even Sion ult gets blocked by Anivia wall, literally. Like Anivia was just mega pick that game. And I think the Seraphine almost saved the draft in a way, because I think that Seraphine in these long fights can make a difference if you have Enchanter or you don't. And it was a good pick into Braum. But the whole, like Seraphine was like the only pick that felt good in a way to play the game. But everything else felt terrible. You couldn't Sion ult. Viego couldn't find anything early game. Draven was just getting outscaled, and Ryze was just getting outscaled. So I feel like 3 out of 3 games G2 won, where to me like there were so many mistakes in draft that made the game so hard for KC. So I actually want to see KC's adaptation into Saturday. They will be playing either against Fnatic or against Koi, as they will be facing the winner of that series. And I want to truly see them think deeper into the draft, maybe pull out more original picks in the Fearless, or maybe just change the pattern a bit. And for example, if you decide to pick Yasuo Senna, which not many teams play right now, and I don't think G2 would pull that off on bot lane, for example, you don't need to prioritize it, and you can save it for game 5 when a lot of tanks in the bot side, for example, are out, or maybe in even the top side, and then you get Yasuo Senna in a game, maybe without Diana even, but maybe with some other setup where the Yasuo Senna can just take over the game from the bot side, because you spike so hard. But if you pull out these combos that are technically good, but you pull them out at a very bad time in the draft, the game is just gonna be difficult. And I think they messed up, I think some of their drafts, they were just really, really hard to play. And I think the game 4 draft was just completely lost. I think game 3 draft was pretty much completely lost, as much as they don't get any lead in the early game, which I don't think they should even be able to. And game 1, I think, game 1 is arguable. If Kalista and Targamas don't lose bot lane, maybe they can win. Maybe they should lane swap. I still think it's going to be hard in team fights, but you do have Lulu Azir, so you can scale. It's just you got so stomped early game that it was hard to play.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree what Jankos said here. And also, I mean, I think from LCK side, I think the coming comp, the draft, in the game 1 is one of the best team comp that you can have in LCK, especially. I think Azir, K'Sante, Varus 1 to 3 was just like, it's just complete draft, like in LCK. You can never expect one team to have like those picks in the same team, And then on top of that, you have Sejuani, which is one of the good engaged tank jungle, and also you have Lulu on the bot lane, which means that you make a Varus stronger in lane as well. And yeah, I think that also, I just want to hype G2 once again, not because of like G2, like I'm a G2 customer, but like I would say the game 1 draft is kind of like lost from G2, because I was completely thinking that, oh my god, they just outdrafted like KC, KC actually outdrafted G2. But like as you mentioned, I think Lavrov kind of managed to like just
he won them the game, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I was having this discussion with one random guy in the Twitter as well, that Varus Lulu and Azure Blitzcrank laning phase is so like free lane for Blitzcrank, but I don't agree, like whenever you think about the team game, you can never think that Azure Blitzcrank can like smash on Varus Lulu, like you can easily just play with your champion, you can just easily just stomp the lane, like, so that's why I thought like G2 could lose this game. But yeah, I mean, he just solo carried the lane, you can never expect that to happen. So that's why maybe G2 looks a lot stronger, even though you have losing draft. Players still has the idea and the skills to like pull out those outcomes, you know. So yeah, I was really liking the game 1, and also like I don't want to say KC was wrong on like game 3 and game 4, because it's not only KC's problem, like KC's issue in the Phillies draft, you know. I think a lot of LCK teams also struggles in the game 3 and game 4, especially in Phillies. I mean, I'm not sure if you watched every single game in LCK, but they are actually dropping a lot of games as well, you know. Like they're just getting like stomped like in 20 minutes in game 3 and game 4, you know, because of the lack of mastery about the champion, and also the draft sucks. But yeah, I mean, that's not only KC's issue, and also they showed up the idea about the draft, you know. They have to gamble at some point because it's Phillies. So I think it was really a good try to do that, especially against G2. And also you have one more chance, you know. So I really like that. But I just want to see the team to try more on the picking red side if you lost the game like on the blue side, because I think in Phillies draft you get actually advantage. You actually get advantage from like game 3 and game 4 on the red side, you know, because you can actually counterpick it. Because I agree, on the blue side, it's really easy to make the draft. But I think after a lot of champions are out, I think it's easier to just pick over their picks, you know. So I just want to know what you think about this, because I feel like blue side is stronger in game 1 and game 2, but you should think that red side is stronger after like game 3, you know.
I think it depends. I think in Europe, and I think I saw similar pattern in Korea, that blue side wins more games on Fearless, and I think it's because you always get the priority first pick. And I think if you are a smart team and you ban the OP champions on blue side just so that you can pick them later, like you don't necessarily make like the best draft you can have for game 1, but you save something for game 3, game 4, because you know that if you end up on blue side, you can try to open it, and even if enemy team has to ban it, then they will leave open something else. And right now there is, I think, at least in Europe, I think there's a lot of priority picks. Like, for example, you mentioned Azir, you mentioned Cassante, right? But there's also Ambessa, there is the Maokai, there is Skarner, there's Zyra, Yone, Ezreal, Varus, Corki. Like, I think every role has multiple champions that will be like tier 1 or tier S, whatever you want to call them. So if you in my opinion, you always get the first pick on the blue side. You can always make like a very good first pick and build your draft around it. And I also think that even if you go blue side, let's say game 5, one of the lanes will be so trimmed after 10 champions are out and additional 6 bans are played, that you can have a very good, I think, first pick that will just be commonly good in the draft. So normally I'd agree that red side is better when it comes to the 5th pick and having a bit to counter pick lanes. But I think that since you can't have your usual counter picks because all of them are out throughout the whole series, it to me feels like at some point it's about picking the best champions and not about counter picking them. It's just like you want your hands on the champions that are still strong, that are good blind picks, but that are just solid together in a draft, instead of trying to get counter picks. And I don't really know how many teams that end up being like very successful with red side drafts, because even the draft you mentioned that KC won, that was a blue side draft when KC was still blue side. And I think that Blitzcrank was like the curveball, you know? They got a Blitzcrank, and that was good.
I remember one team who was really good on the red side, BO5, like game 5. That's basically like 2018 G2. I think that's the reason why I say you need a gamble. I remember, I think not many people know this, but actually the hero in that game was Jankos, because I remember like at game 5, we were kind of struggling about this idea as well, because we have to give up Nocturne, which was really good pick for them in that series. So we were like kind of struggling to like ban like all the things out, but Jankos literally said that, okay, we gotta gamble at game 5. You gotta gamble in BO5. You have to do something. Like, I'm gonna be the guy who pull the trigger. And he said, I'm gonna play Olaf into Nocturne, and I'm gonna gank level 2 on the bot lane. And that was the most craziest gamble you can have in BO5, but that worked out, you know. So that's why I said I think you can be more creative on the red side. And I think if the team gets better on that, and also having more creative ideas about it, and I think red side can be a lot stronger, you know. Yeah, so that's mainly the reason why I said red side could be better in the field list as well.
I agree with that point. I just think it's difficult to get these champions on the red side, because back then, you know, 5-6 years ago, we could still pick everything we wanted, but now you actually can't. Yeah. So I like I mentioned, I think the draft with the Blitzcrank was like a very good curveball, and I think that won the draft on red side, because they actually had a win con, and the Blitzcrank was the win condition, and Labrov actually like pulled it through. But I think a lot of teams are gonna like last pick, I don't know, Nautilus or Leona or Brom, and these champions will not just like naturally win you the game or the draft, you know, and then you don't really get that much value out of red side. And for example, KC's red side, they went like game 3 they were red side, and they went the Yasuo Diana, and they picked it so early, and then they just like fell over, right? So I think one team that did red sides well, if we are at this subject, is BDS, because BDS was actually trading power picks, and they would end up with 1-1-3 playing a lot of OP champions on red side, because they would like give up OP champions on blue side. So yeah, exactly. They would give up OP champs to blue side. So then he would end up playing, for example, game 1 he was playing Skarner into Zyra, which is like 2 commonly banned champions. Game 2, I think they got Nidalee for themselves, but there was not like a huge trade. And then game 3, I remember them giving up like Pantheon. But I think that series overall had like a lot of good bans. And I also think that Pantheon is one of the champions, in my opinion, that should be valued more in draft. I think this champion is really strong, and only G2 plays it to a high level, because I think you need good solo laners to use the Pantheon ult. You need like understanding of silence. But I think BDS had one of the better red side drafts, and they could have won, you know, the series against Fnatic. They actually could have 2-0 even if they would close out the games properly, game 1 and or game 3. But yeah, that was they are out now, so that's not gonna happen. I guess we can talk a little bit maybe about MKOI and Fnatic, because Fnatic did not look very good against MKOI, against BDS, and then we have MKOI, which is Merwin, which you watch every game, right? Wadid as well, every LEC game. And Merwin, like, you probably don't know him. I mean, I don't know how much you watched last year, but Merwin is here, I think, from last year.
Every game. I watched every game last year as well.
Okay, so you know he's crazy. Like, you know he puts, like, crazy in a good way. Like, he picks champions that are not common, and he tries to make them work. And last year, at least, he had a lot of this AD Varus. And something that I want to mention a bit later into the podcast, that lane swap is not going to be a thing for first in tournament, because Riot already confirmed the removal of lane swap, right? They made these very strict rules to remove it. And I think player like Merwin really benefits from it. And Merwin already last time, I think he was playing Vex into Ambessa. And Ambessa dashes a lot, and it just makes so much sense to pick Vex into it, because I think the laning phase should be unplayable. But he didn't just pick Vex, he picked a Vex and went full tank. He was like building Grasp, Fimbul, Winter, Landris, and then he did Rift Maker. And then after that, he started building attack speed. I don't know if that was just a troll buy or if he was going Nashor 2 or something. But like he went like the overtime damage tank Vex, which nobody, like, I've seen nobody play that shit before, you know? So to me, I'm very, very excited to see more of MKOI, because it's gonna be a BO5 now against Fnatic. So that means he will play minimum of 3 games. And this guy is very creative. So I really wanna see him, you know, pull out like things from his sack.
Yeah, like, I'm not sure, like, because listening to this, it does really sound like G2 has a draft that is almost like not just good, but they have a way of seeing the entire draft, not getting tunnel vision, like, you know, from KC side, not getting tunnel vision on picking Yasuo, Diana, but like, you know, seeing it and actually countering it Renekton, and also having players with the ability to carry out those drafts, because Jankos, you just mentioned that, okay, they picked Rise and Caps decided to counter Anivia with it because he's a mid laner that's been around for a while. He has played Anivia before and he has like experimented the idea of countering Rise with Anivia, and it almost felt like most of the KC players didn't even know how Anivia worked, so to speak, especially like, Anivia mid lane. How important do you guys think that having those players that break the mold, especially when it comes to the fearless, especially when it comes to best of 5?
I think that also depends on the team as well.
Okay.
Maybe like I think normally people will think that if someone cannot play a specific champion, then it's a specific player's issue. But in fact, it's not. I think it's also the team issue as well. There should be a team that having this issue as well, because yeah, I mean for solo players, I mean you can always just think about your champions only. But I think when it comes to the team game, even though like you know so much well about the champion and you can play it, but your team cannot play. Like for example, like you have to practice a lot as a team. Like let's say we want to play Caitlyn bot side. So Caitlyn bot side, you have to snowball from the lane. So which means that you have to have a mid priority with the stronger jungler matchup, and also top lane should be fine even though your jungler cannot go on the top lane because you have to put like all the resources on the bot lane. So yeah, that's basically it is. Like you want to play a Caitlyn bot lane, then your team has to know how to play the Caitlyn champion. So I think that's basically why G2 is really good, because everyone knows how to play around the champions and also like as a team. I think that's the biggest difference.
I think a fun little trivia going back to what Ashley mentioned as well is that Anivia was released in 2009, which is, well, long time ago, like 16 years.
Can I just quickly mention that in LCK, we have players that are born in 2007?
Exactly, and Kaliste was born in 2006. So Kaliste was actually 3 years old when Anivia was released, and Vladi, the mid laner of KC, was 4 years old when Anivia was released. So he had to play against a champion that was in the game for 16 years, but when he was like growing up, the champion was out when he was like 4. Like how crazy it is to think about it. Like I feel so. Well, never mind. Let's not talk about this subject. But let's let's talk a little bit about.
It's okay. This is like a retirement home here right now with what Jankos and especially me.
I mean, Wadid is still the youngest out of all of us, right? Wadid is 2 years young.
I solo push our average age up to 31 or something. Okay.
It's all good. At some point, just stop the count. Stop the count. But I wanted to bring up lane swaps. I think we touched on it a little bit, and I think that it seems like Riot just said no to lane swaps. There is a Reddit post currently on the front page, which gives the PBE patch notes that are ready on PBE right now, and they just removed it. Like if you lane swap right now. Basically the tower
like 1,000% damage, right?
Yes, okay, so like more important points, defending tower is full heated up, which means does full damage instantly. Defending tower is gonna one-shot all the minions, like basically each auto is gonna one-shot a minion. Enemy champions that are in the lane swap and count as a lane swap, they will get 50% golden experience. So imagine you want a lane swap and you don't want to dive, you still don't get experience in gold. You just literally can't do it because you will lose so much. And then defending tower is also gonna one-shot champions. If you attempt a dive, it will just kill you in one shot. You will just die. So they removed lane swaps from the game, at least until I believe the timer is 3:30. So you can start lane swapping after 3 minutes and 30 seconds in the game, which is around the first base from every lane. Like sometimes you cheater base at like after second or third wave, but normally 30 is like the safe timer. What could it mean for the first tournament where we will see only best teams from each region? I mean, I think it's gonna be very, very fun because now we will see fearless draft without worrying that the team with the tank is just gonna lane swap. So you can actually go for these creative counter picks that Wadid mentioned. Partially, sometimes you can't counter pick because you have a feeling, oh, I'm going to pick Cassante. These guys are going to pick something that beats Cassante in lane. But then the Cassante team is going to lane swap because Cassante is so much better at lane swapping than, I don't know, Quinn is, let's say, right? So I think that can bring a lot of hype. And I think that's a good decision because lane swaps are just, I mean, in my opinion, they were just really boring to watch. Like every game looked the same with lane swaps. So I don't know, what do you think, Wadid?
As I mentioned, I really like the macro, so I'm the guy who loves lane swap, you know. But yeah, I think as a viewer side, you know, I think lane swap is really boring to watch, and yeah, I think you definitely got to change. But yeah, I mean, I think Riot already like kind of agreed on like positions, you know. They already put the like top like the positions in the solo queue. So I think yeah, the way how they fixed it right now is not really cool. But I think they will find a way. I think you gotta change it for the tournament. But yeah, I mean, the lane swap, I think that kind of helped like a lot of teams, like weaker teams who have like weaker laning phase. So I think the reason why I really liked it is because like it opened up the idea about the draft, and also it opened up idea about your laning phase as well, because like normally whenever you watch like weaker team versus stronger team, then you know what's gonna happen. They're gonna just get solo killed in lane, and they're just gonna get stomped like by like 15 minutes. You know they're gonna just lose by lanes. But I think lane swap helped a lot for those kind of teams like who has weaker laning pace. So yeah, I'm not sure what's gonna happen in the tournament, but yeah, I still think that Philly's draft is still there. So I think other regions, like Western countries, we still got the chance against the Eastern teams, yeah.
I just want to quickly add to that on what it's note that the lane swap may have given advantages to some teams who try to put the other teams off guard. I think that was the case at the beginning of the lane phase, where that indeed was, catching people off guard. But after that, people kind of figured out lane phase. People were still doing lane phase, but they knew exactly when our jungle is going to come and do like a 3v1. When the enemy jungle is going to 3v1, it became being formalized, and once again, it became the topic of discipline. How disciplined are you when it came to lane phase? Look at some of the top laners that are playing in the LCK right now. They know perfectly how to react to the 3-1 lane vibe, and they sometimes survive, and the moment they survive and the other team on the diagonal gets killed in the 3v lane, that completely changes the game. Look at Keen, look at Zeus, look at even Doran. So like I think that would it have given advantages to the Western team? I would say that would have been the case when lane phase first got introduced, and when people were still getting used to it. But now that it became so methodical, I'm not sure. But
we are freaking cooked. Europe is cooked, man!
I still like it. I never give up hope on EU. We were all saying that, but we were all saying that back in the first half of the...
Okay, I don't want to be sorry continue.
You want to move on?
No, I just wanted to do like a little note that I think the true team that is cooked is, I think, Team Liquid. I think they are mega cooked. But I don't want to get into it. But I think Team Liquid, no lane swaps, mega cooked.
Oh my god. Okay. I don't know. We would definitely get Wadid next time, but I'm also happy to grab anyone from Team Liquid at some point because Impact is really fun to talk to. But yeah, on an ending note, really excited to see what the first stand is going to look like. Especially it's going to be the first best of 5. I don't know when the best of 5 starts, but the first fearless tournament there we're going to see LEC versus LCK and all the other regions. But going back to the LEC, what do you guys think about the upcoming matches? We're not going to have G2 because they're all the way at the finals, but we're going to have KC, we're going to have Nari, we're going to have Mad, and movie star Corey. Now they're movie star Corey.
Okay, I want Wadid to go first. What are your predictions for the weekend, Wadid?
Okay, I think okay, I'm just gonna be honest. I'm known as Toxic Korean, so okay. Yay. I feel like Hoi and Fnatic, they have 2 mid laners who chokes a lot. So it's gonna be 3-2 to Fnatic. Even though Fnatic looks a lot stronger, I feel like Humanoid and Jojo Pen, they choke so much if it matters a lot. So I think it's gonna be messier series than we thought. And I think Kaminkop is gonna win whoever comes, and it's gonna be like 3-1 to Kaminkop. I think they are just so much better in the basic steps. So I really like to watch their games. So yeah, that's my prediction.
Yeah,
And then the
I agree
finals?
with you.
Finals,
Yeah.
I mean, easy, bro. It's gonna be 3-0 for G2. They are the king of the Europe, the legacy. I don't know, like G2 is gonna like kill everyone, and they're gonna perform so much well in first stand as well. Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Omar is
sense.
going to- yeah, Omar is absolutely going to love this podcast. I don't know. Can I also give my predictions?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah. I don't know, dude, why you said that, like, people didn't expect MDK versus Fnatic not to be messy, because that is, when you look at the title, that is going to be messiest best of 5 we had in the entire LEC. I don't know. I do agree with you that those teams look the most inconsistent in multiple different aspects throughout the entire split, but I don't know. It really depends on the momentum. Like, is Fnatic still going to have good momentum coming into this week after they lost against G2? But I just really believe in Fnatic's ability to make it to the finals. That organization just has the power to make it and go to G2 Fnatic finals somehow, and G2's gonna win it at some point because everything is scripted, blah blah blah. But yeah, again, I agree with you. 3-1 or 3-2 to Fnatic, and 3-0 or 3-1 to KC.
Okay, now it's my time. I kind of agree with the results. I want to see exciting game between MKOI Fnatic. I don't know if I should just be different from you guys. I feel like MKOI can win that series.
Say your heart.
Yeah, I mean, okay, like I truly believe. Okay, so the thing is, I like Mickey, and I think he's very passionate, and I think he doesn't want this project to end in as the 4th place in Europe. I think he wants to win, right? But I think for me, Fnatic was really not convincing against BDS. And even though they won against BDS, I think 113 was getting the better of Razork in that series. And I actually think Razork has been slightly underperforming in playoffs so far. I was not very impressed with him. And that's only because regular season he was amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, he didn't play that bad. It's just regular season, he was by far the best giant in Europe. And it feels like to me right now, he's not playing like the best giant in Europe. He's performing way worse. And Fnatic looked shaky, and I think 113 was playing amazing in that series. And I'm just a little bit worried how would Fnatic prepare. And I know that Humanoid is a funny guy, and he has this like personality of like trash talking. But I think
you sound like someone who's gonna date and says, "Oh yeah, he has a nice personality, but."
Yeah, he has a nice personality, but he did this interview after I think game 1 of BDS against Fnatic. He did a short interview after game 1. Wadid probably remembers as well, and you actually watched, and he like said like, "Oh yeah, we didn't know, like we can't lose. We are so much better." Like he was very cocky, and I know he did it as a joke. He didn't mean it because the game was shaky, and I think he was just like memeing a little bit or using sarcasm. But I feel like Fnatic, in my eyes, needs to step up a lot if they want to be relevant and if they want to win the finals. And right now, with the performance they just had, I cannot put them as the winners of that BO5 because I think MKOI looked, very solid in their games, and I think that. The opponents they played, right, Giant X, I think arguably could have been better, could have been worse than BDS. We don't know because these two teams didn't face each other. But I think that MKOI, when they can get ahead in the early game, I think the way they play now, they don't throw games and they are very, very stable. And I think that if Fnatic gets behind the same way they did against BDS in the MKOI games, they will just lose. There will be no comebacks. Fnatic is not going to come back against MKOI. It's not happening. MKOI is too disciplined for that. And I think MKOI is not as good early game, and I think they are not maybe as. We will see if Elioya can be as creative as 113 was, right? Because I think the draft curves that 113 or what BA was throwing at Fnatic was also interesting. So we will see about the drafts, but currently I'm gonna go 3-1 to MKOI. I think MKOI is gonna win that. And I hope I'm wrong because I'm actually like more of a Fnatic fan than MKOI fan, but I think MKOI is gonna win. And then in the Saturday, I think it's gonna be KC, and I think KC is just need to fix their shit and draft. I think they need either play to win conditions or just fix their drafts. And I think they are better. I think they have solid lanes like what it said. I think they have great bot lane. I think they play very well around jungle and support. And I think they have good teamfight understanding. They are very solid overall. But I think they are 2 shitty drafts. And I think game 1, I agree the draft could have been won in LCK. But your bot lane dies to be 2 to a Blitzcrank hook. Blitzcrank starts roaming the map. Blitzcrank hooks everybody. The game is lost. And Maokai Blitzcrank, by the way, is a combo. Because Maokai ults, and then you just Blitzcrank hook whoever he ulted. Unless there is a Cassante, which they had. But they just never got to that point of the game because at that point, they were already losing so many kills and gold, right? So I think KC is going to win on start day. And I think in the finals, I don't know. I kind of want to say that I don't actually care that much because I want the best team to win and I want the best team to be at the first end tournament. And in my opinion, currently the best team we have is G2. So unless KC in this 1 week will fix their drafts and will like actually show that they can match G2 in the laning phase, which they were, dying in last BO5, and they can match their like drafting idea and they can match these creative champions, then I think G2 is just the better team. I think like the fearless draft is currently proving G2 as having the most experience / the best players. So I hope it's gonna be a banger series, but currently I would predict G2 to win at least 3-2.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Like, just on an ending note, that we gave out all our predictions in the end, but I think we all share the sentiment that like we just want the best representing team to make it to the first stand because just 3 people really love the LEC, and if KC wins, then we love KC. Like, we want them to do really well at first stand. If MKOI like wins the whole thing, then MKOI is the best team in entire Europe. So best luck to them. Like, we're not supporting a specific team. We just give our predictions, but whoever wins, they better be the best.
100%. And I think to add to that, I think KC can be the best. Just maybe they need more time, you know.
Yeah.
I think that it's MSI Worlds, but I think right now they probably need a little bit more time.
Yeah.
In your face, Wadid. The G2 Wadid.
Okay. Thank you so much for the episode, guys. This was really super fun episode. Like, I personally got a lot of insights as someone who loves the LEC, watches the both LCK and LEC, and it was really interesting to get a lot of different contrasts. But it was lovely to have you. Maybe we will see you in some future episodes.
Sure. Anytime.
The cool guy.
Cool guy. Once again, there was Jankos. Definitely check him out on Twitter and Twitch. And Wadid, he's really trying to get his Instagram drawing. So if you're still watching at this point, 100% log into Instagram and check out Wadid XD on Instagram. And this was actually Kang for Horizon Esports. Coming closer.
Full pictures.
Yeah,
Instagram,
full
guys.
picture. Yeah, just do it. Press the follow. This was actually Kang, guys, and see you guys next week. Best of luck to LEC. Bye, guys.
See you. Bye.
Bye.